Kaye.
Well, this is Kaye here from the Drama Llama Van channel, and I am talking to Kaye, Call It. And we met in Tauranga a few years ago, and I'm so memorable, Kaye can't remember me, but anyway, we got reacquainted on Facebook, and I came to see her new van, and as you can see, I'm just going to pan around a bit. It's marvellous. A little fridge here, kitchen area. I was always impressed when I met Kaye by, we've got some lovely tiles on the wall there. How incredibly neat she is compared to me. You've seen my van. And Kaye's such an interesting character. I said, can I interview you? And she said yes. So I'm very excited about that. So how long have you been travelling?
Probably coming up 7 years.
Oh, 7 years, same as me.
Yeah, around about 7 years.
Oh, wow. And where did you start?
In Hastings. I had a backpackers in Hastings.
Oh, wow.
And I'd had enough. I'd been unwell and I'd had enough and whatever. And a lot of the campers would come in camper vans.
Okay.
And I thought, I think I can do that. So I sold up the backpackers and bought a Toyota Hiace high top.
And that's where I met you.
Loved it.
Yes, I love my Toyota Hiace, and I met you in Tauranga.
Yeah. And
I was so impressed because your van was so beautifully laid out. It's got a bit of a different layout from mine because you had your kitchen at the back.
Yeah, completely different layout to most Toyotas, I think.
Yeah.
But it suited me.
It was fabulous. Perfect. I was just so impressed by how neat and tidy it was, and you could have visitors. And yeah, I always lusted after that van. So, and where have you been?
Me, I've been to the top of the North Island, to the bottom of the South Island, probably many, many times over in the last 6 or 7 years.
Yeah. And you like to spend 4 months a year in the South Island?
Generally, yeah. I normally go down end of January and come back in May.
And do you go down one coast and come up the other coast? You just meander around?
Last time I was down there last year, and I thought, right, I'm going to drive down the middle of the South Island, but unfortunately you can't drive down the middle of the South Island. So I went down and I got to Castle Rock, which was as far down as what I could possibly go.
Yeah.
And then in the car park leaving, I thought, right, will I go left or will I go right? And I thought, well, if I go right, I'm just taking the same trip I've been, so I'll go left and see where I end up.
Yeah.
And I ended up on Arthur's Pass.
Oh,
shit
wow.
of a road.
I know.
I mean, it's not a shit of a road, but it's so friggin' long. It's just
it's
unbelievable.
Were you coming from the Christchurch side or the West Coast side?
Christchurch side.
Yeah.
And so I'd vowed and declared I wasn't going down the East Coast this time because I've done the East Coast that many times.
Yeah.
Anyway, Arthur's Pass, and where do I end up but Greymouth?
I love Greymouth.
I like Greymouth too, but I was on the East Coast.
Oh,
so consequently then I went from Greymouth right down to Haast through to Wanaka.
Oh, and that's a wonderful trip. I didn't get to the Catlins, but Barney and I went down. We spent a lot of time at Albert Town near Wanaka, which were, you know, that wonderful camp beside the Clutha. Oh, it's just, and under the pine trees. Gosh, it's got a lovely energy there.
That was the only time I paid for camping the whole time I was away because I never pay for camping.
Oh, right.
Very, very rarely.
Very rarely.
I have to.
Yeah.
But I went to Albert Town because I'd met up with Indiana. I'd met her in Thames, I think, probably 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
And we've kept in contact periodically ever since.
Yeah.
And she said to me, I'm at Albert Town.
Come and see me, yeah.
So, of course, I went to Albert Town for a couple of nights.
Oh, we just fell in love with it. It's just a marvellous, marvellous place. And where do you plan to go?
Well, I'm heading to Australia on the 3rd of March.
Yes.
And I've hired a camper van in Adelaide.
Oh, how wonderful.
And I'm going up the Great Ocean Road. So presumably, I don't really know where I'm going. So I'll go up to Melbourne, and then from Melbourne I'll go up to Sydney, and then I'll fly home on the 4th of April.
So you basically got a date you get there, a date you leave, and then you can do whatever you want. And you're in a van, and you know how to do the van. You're comfortable with that. You can rest whenever you need to.
Yeah.
And do you like that feeling of I don't know what's going to happen?
I love that feeling.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. even.
Love it.
You know, I'll be driving along a road and I'll see a sign saying
Yeah.
cottage industry or something around. Okay, go and see, and then I'll say, oh, where does this road do? If I follow this road, will it take me out somewhere?
Yeah.
Generally, it does.
Well, I used to live in Tokoroa and drive to Hamilton a lot. And I just drove past places because I had to be at there at a certain time. Once I was in the van, boy, I just saw a whole different side to that road.
You haven't got time. You know, you've got time. You're not conditioned by time.
No. And how many vans have you had?
This is my second.
And which one do you? Oh, you had the Toyota first.
Yeah, I like the Toyota better.
Oh yes, good choice.
That's just my own preference.
Yeah.
I like the layout in it. This one's slightly bigger, but not a lot bigger.
Yeah.
I just like the layout in the other one.
It was lovely.
And I like Toyotas.
They're good.
So
they're just, my mechanic made me buy one. He just said, get a Toyota. They're reliable.
Yeah, that's the same.
Everything else I bought him that wasn't a Toyota, he'd just say, oh, it's terrible. Don't buy it. And so what do you do when you're on the road?
I work most days.
Yeah. And what
I'm
sort
a
of
clairvoyant, /psychic, energy healer,
right,
spiritual mentor, whatever you want to call me. So I used to do 3 or 4 readings a day, but now I have put myself down to 1 reading a day.
Right.
And that's enough.
Apart
from that, by the time I get up in the morning, cook my breakfast, make my bed. Well, I haven't really made it today, but make my bed and things like that. It's time to do my first reading.
Right.
And then after that, I'll have some lunch, and then I'll just ticky tour off. I might go for a walk down a beach. I might go for a walk down a track, or go and visit somebody or whatever. So there's
always a ton to do, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
And how did you get into doing the readings?
Well, when I lived under the shadow of a cloth for many, many, many years. So when I was 14, I went to a spiritualist church in Masterton, and I felt alive. I felt, wow, this is so cool. This is what I want to do, and this is where I want to be. Went home from there, and I said to Mum and Nana, wow, I'm on top of the world. I've been there, I've done this and whatever. And they says, don't you ever go back to that place again. That's not a nice place to go to.
Oh, wow.
So I couldn't really pursue it.
Yeah.
But in those days, they didn't have internet. They only had the library. So I would go to the library and I'd get all sorts of books on past lives or reincarnation or spirituality or you name it, crystals, aromatherapy, you name it, everything. So I was always reading about it. And it wasn't until really my marriage broke down in the year 2000, because my ex-husband, he wanted nothing to do with that type of life as well. So I had to keep it to myself. So in the year 2000, I was free. I had no restrictions.
Oh, how wonderful.
Nothing. Yeah. And I met this group of people whom they were leading a spiritual group.
Wow.
So I joined that. And from there, I haven't looked back.
Gosh. And what helped you develop once you started doing the clairvoyancy? What helped you develop?
Gratitude. So every day, all day, I would give gratitude. I was working for we'll call it a white collar firm.
Yeah.
As a territory sales manager for 5 or 6 years. And in those 5 or 6, well, not quite, probably 3 years of that, I was giving gratitude. So I'd be in the car and I'd be driving from here to Gisborne or here to Taupo or wherever. And I'd be saying, I'm grateful for the apples on the tree. I'm grateful for the bananas and the fruit bowl. I'm grateful for the cows in the paddock. I'm grateful for the ditches on the side of the road.
Everything.
And so my mind would not be on where I was going, what I was doing. I was on automatic.
Right.
And I would just be giving gratitude for everything. And it was a wonderful feeling because I could feel the shift when it happened.
Wow.
And it was like everything out here didn't matter.
Gosh.
It was only me.
Yeah.
So that helped to develop my spiritual being.
Gosh.
Yeah.
And did you meet anyone significant that helped you develop, or was it mainly an internal thing?
Mainly an internal thing because I work very much to myself by myself.
Right.
But saying that, I certainly share and I certainly like people, but only on my terms.
Yeah.
So, yeah, No, it just developed.
That's interesting. And when you do a reading, what do you do? I have an interest in this because I booked a reading with you.
I just sit and the information comes through from spirit.
Yeah.
And I just start talking.
Wow, that's fascinating.
So that will be about past, present, and future. It may be about your health. It might be about a relationship. It might be about your work. It might be a financial situation.
Right.
Combination of everything. You know, the person can ask questions, or they don't have to ask anything.
You'll just tell them what's coming through.
Yeah.
And you're on social media. I know you've got a very successful Facebook page.
I have, and that is called Autumn Weaver Spiritual Mentor.
Right, Autumn Weaver Spiritual Mentor.
Yeah, that's me.
And you post on that every day.
I do. I post positive. What would you call them? Just positive posts.
Statements or thoughts.
They've always got a picture.
Yeah.
So it could be a funny, it could be a serious, it could be anything, but it's always positive.
Something that's going to uplift people.
Yeah, and it does uplift because I get a lot of comments back and people say, wow, you posted that just for me.
Yeah.
I don't even know you.
I've got 18,000 followers, but yeah, I posted that just for you. And how do people book a session with you?
Okay, they can go through my Facebook page through PM if they want to.
Yeah.
They can go to my website, which is autumnweaver.co.nz.
Oh, that's simple. autumnweaver.co.nz.
Or they can ring me on 021 141 3899.
021 141 3899.
That's it. Yeah.
Very good. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing that with me.
No worries.
And with us, with my whole 8 followers. Hopefully, one day I'll have 18,000 followers like you. That's amazing. Yeah, and I look forward to my reading. And I do love your new van, but I do miss the Toyota.
Yeah, I do too. The Toyota had a bit more colour in it than this, I think.
It was special.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thoroughly